Alright everyone, we have some very severe TDS coping going on, specifically from the Desantis fan crowd, and not really like the lay fans that are just like, hey, I prefer DeSantis, but there are some people that are literally seem only to exist in order to foment Trump derangement syndrome. So Trump is responsible for quite literally every ill in the world, even when self-evidently other people were responsible. Like, he didn't build enough wall because the House Republicans refused to fund his wall for several years. And so now they've switched from, well, Trump is really responsible, even though he was trying and being obstructed by unipartyists within his own party for no reason. Now he's responsible for it because, well, he should have negotiated better. That's some significant TDS, but we've gone even a step or two further at this point. I'm going to read a couple of Twitter links verbatim from a couple of these morons here. First, we got Max Twain, he's helping spread the conspiracy theory that Donald Trump is skipping the debates because he has heart disease. Where's your source from this? I'm not seeing an original central source actually at all. I'm not even sure who decided to start this big fib, but it is self-evidently false. People close to the campaign are saying that DeSantis is losing in all the polls, so let's make something up. That's basically the source. Source, my ass. That's where it comes from, because it's shit. Then we've also got Han Shaughnessy. I'm sure that he'll appreciate the attention, because he typically doesn't get too much of it. This was a very, very funny tweet. New talking points just dropped. This is in response to my original response to him. Trump didn't do anything when BLM and Antifa torched our cities because he was following security protocol. I was responding to him. The original tweet was, remember that time when all our cities burned and Trump hid in his bunker while DeSantis passed strong anti-riot and stand your ground laws? Good times. I'm going to assume that you're not being hyperbolic and facetious here, and I'll just debunk what you're saying. Trump can't pass stand your ground laws. Those are the state issue. Trump can't really do anything about riots. He optioned using the National Guard and was effectively rebuffed by the entirety of the political complex, saying that that would be a step too far. How do you think it would have looked if Donald Trump had sent the troops into a bunch of U.S. cities? They would say he was being tyrannical, authoritarian, dictatorial, was preparing to take over the country as a literal dictator, and mass riots would break out all over the country, because people had been primed to believe that. As far as him hiding in the bunker, there is a security protocol at the White House that calls for the president and his family, as well as the VP and other attendant individuals, to be shielded in a literal bunker if anything outside untoward is going on. When thousands of people are rioting in D.C., they've burned several businesses, they've torched cars, they're randomly assaulting people and vandalizing storefronts, and they're converging on the White House. And they're already sparring with Secret Service outside of the security fencing. And they've injured and incapacitated dozens of individuals, and they're throwing shit onto the White House lawn, including Molotovs and rocks, and their numbers are significant enough to be a significant security threat. The president is not given the choice of whether to go to the bunker, because the president of the United States is effectively owned by the public. He's a public asset. Therefore, a security service there, his own private security as well, usher him and his family into the bunker. He didn't cower. He was incapable of doing otherwise due to literal law. Under U.S. law, he's going to be protected in the bunker when that happens. The insinuation is that Ron DeSantis as president would have stood up on the balcony of the White House. He would have ignored the Secret Service, so, because he's Big Ron. He's such a big man, when you have 6-inch lifts maybe. And he would stand out there with a gun menacing the protesters, the rioters. That's not realistic. That's not how this works. You're making, by the way, DeSantis fans, a very terrible mistake. You're making the same mistake that a lot of people made with Donald Trump, and which I warned them of in 2016. You're trying to cast Ron DeSantis off as the utter, unique, ubermensch maverick who is going to defy all of the odds, all of the rules, and be perfect. You never criticize the man. Even when he has a self-evident mistake, you refuse to criticize him. The only time that you allow criticism is if he half-asses it when he insults Donald Trump. Even then you usually stroke your cock to the soundbite, I'm sure, over and over again. I warned people in 2016 that were casting Trump off as the God savior of all mankind that he was a reformer. It was a good idea to vote for him. I voted for him. I found him to be a successful president. I don't understand people with TDS unless they've been listening to CNN for the last 5 years. You shouldn't be infected by proxy. Well, you're a conservative, and you've still got TDS. I think there's something screwy about you, considering the 3 Supreme Court justices put there by Trump and the slurry of decision-making thereafter that has been widely praised. But that's not Trump's doing. Trump is responsible for anything bad that happened when he was president, but he doesn't get any credit for any of the good things that he did. That's basically TDS in a nutshell. You expect Ron, should he be elected, which he won't be, but we're talking academically here, to be perfect. You're setting him up for failure, ironically enough. And by the way, his own fans are setting him up for failure, first by encouraging him to run at the worst possible moment, then by refusing to criticize a man whose campaign is clearly wonky, and then if he were to get in there, by upholding him on a pedestal as though he was to be worshipped, and not understanding that, like Trump, he will make mistakes. He would have problems, and assuming that he pursues a populistic path, at this point, I don't think Ron would, but assuming he actually was merely MAGA minus Trump, so it's MAGA but younger and more well-spoken or something is basically the selling point. This is the store brand Donald Trump without the mean tweets. Assuming he did that, he'd face obstruction. He wouldn't accomplish 90% of his agenda because it simply wouldn't be funded by what's probably going to be an incoming Democratic House. This will be a problem if Trump is reelected. He's going to have to grapple with an unkind legislative process that will seek to stymie all of the good things he wants to do, and only things that he wants to do that fall in line with the uniparty agenda, at least partially, would be greenlit. This is going to happen. You should hope that it isn't Ron DeSantis that ends up in the presidency under these tumultuous times, because he'll just end up getting obstructed into oblivion. And unlike Donald Trump, he's not used to making boardroom deals and doing the art of the deal thing, which means that he's at a disadvantage. The idea that Trump has heart failure is basically a Hail Mary at this point. Ron DeSantis, and this comes in the wake of new polling, and it's not a coincidence that this same time periods overlap. The new Des Moines Register poll is out. Trump is easily far ahead in Iowa. He has not seen his lead dented in any way. He has about a 25-point lead in Iowa. While it is possible to lose Iowa while leading in polling, the swing usually is not that big. People have pointed out Trump was leading narrowly in Iowa in polling in 2016. He lost it to Ted Cruz. Yeah, but he was leading by 5 points, not by 25. That would be a little bit obtuse. He's also handily ahead in all of the other starting states. Effectively, the only chance for every other candidate is Iowa at this point. They don't have another shot at it. If Donald Trump wins Iowa, I'll just say he's the nominee. That's why the liberals have moved on to trying to say that Trump is disqualified from running for office. Pro tip, numbnuts, no, he's not. He has not actually been convicted of any crime, and the charges against him don't have anything to do with rebellion or insurrection, so yeah, you can choke on a big red cock, and you probably do on a regular basis. Trump is going to be the nominee, and there are people salty about it. In the end, most of them will climb back aboard. Those that want to be sourpusses or just be, hipsters, they just want to be different for difference's sake, they'll say, no, I refuse. I'm not going to back Orange Man. It won't matter in the end, though. And Donald Trump will probably win at this point. The liberals are starting to get very, very concerned. They're also concerned about the legalese against him. I just found that this latest COPE roundup, immediate wake of Iowa polling, you all of a sudden get a slurry of conspiracy theories and copium. Probably not coincidental. That's about all. Peace out.